Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, and welcome to the BattleGround for this week. As we go ahead and take a look and see what's going on with the market, it's going to be a quiet week. We're going to take a look at the news out this week, and not a lot of news coming out. In fact, zero news coming out this week. So we'll take a look and see how the markets are set up. There are definitely some pairs that I'm reviewing. We'll talk about all of those pairs right after this. Howdy traders, good afternoon, good morning, and welcome to the session today. If you listening to my voice and you say there's something wrong with Gary's voice, you're absolutely right. I think I've got a little cold coming down, and so my voice is a little croaky this morning. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure that I'm drinking water. Here we go. The staff members have brought me some water, making sure I keep sipping some water throughout the show today. So. A big week this week. No, not really. Just kidding. Really nothing happening this week. If we go ahead and take a look at the news, we haven't really got any news coming out this week. Quite a lot of the holidays. Obviously, a lot of people on vacation still as we're taking the break between Christmas and New Year. So things will start beginning to develop again as we head into the mid part of January. But up until this point, we're going to go ahead and take a look and see what we're still focusing on. What pairs are we still going to be taking a look at that we expect to move this week and next week. Now, I'm not saying because we don't have any news coming out this week that we're not going to see some action. There may still be some movement throughout the week as we go into the new year. Let's go take a look and see what's going on. I'm going to focus on a couple of things. Dollar index, I'm going to focus on dollar index. I'm going to focus on oil, gold, and of course, Bitcoin. So we're going to go through those four right down this morning, and we're going to go to some cross pairs, and we're going to go focus on exactly what we're talking about when we talk about dollar weakness. How does that affect some certain currency pairs? So stick around, traders. Let's go ahead and take a look and see what's going on. So let's jump into the charts right here. And as I jump in the charts, I'm going to go to the dollar index first. Start off with that right here. And so we're still range bound. You see this is a 4-hour time frame. You see we're still range bound right here. And we are expecting the market to break out of this range and actually go ahead and chase after that low right here based on this rising wedge. So this is not normal. We don't normally see this. When we see a rising wedge and the market rallies up as high as we do here, we end up seeing the market dip back down and take out that starting point of the rising wedge. And it hasn't happened. The market's actually moved sideways. So a little strange, a little different than what we are currently used to. Now, we do have this upward trend line. And the market did go ahead and test the top of the trend line right here. So we are expecting, again, a downside moving dollar to come back to retest the bottom of the trend line. We've got to break out of that range in order for that to happen. So could this happen this week? Well, I don't know. Not a lot of news coming out this week. As we go to the news, take a look at this week's news. And you can see right here, just holidays. Everyone's on vacation and nobody's working. It's just pretty much just chill back, sipping pina coladas on the beaches. That's pretty much what it's going to be. No, not here in Florida. It's not that warm. Even though we're having warm weather, it's pretty cold out here. All right. So let's go take a look and see what's going on with a couple of pairs that we are trading against the dollar. Here is the US dollar CAD. And I'm currently right now, and I will currently still be bearish on US dollar CAD. Looking for US dollar CAD to go ahead and continue to move to the downside. Looking for the market to go ahead and at least to go ahead and test this trend line, which is not too far away from it, from where it's trading right now. In fact, if I go ahead and take a look and see here, we're looking at about 127 pips to go. So that's not a whole bunch, but yep, I'm still bearish on US dollar CAD. Looking for US dollar CAD to go ahead and test that trend line, and then we'll deal with that, what it's going to do after that point right here. Now, if I go ahead and compress the charts here on the 4-hour time frame, you can see that we do have this downward swings. Here we have our first downward swing. We have our second one. Price come back to retest the I'm going to call it wave one because that's what it is. Wave one low right here at around about 129.91. So let's call it 130 because we frames. So around about 130, price come back to retest that level right here. And so again, we're actually looking for the US dollar CAD to drop back down long term down to this level right here, which is about 1.1650. So 116.50 is the downside move that we're expecting price to move to. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at just one more pair, and that's going to be pound US dollar right here. Pound US dollar set up a little differently in a sense, but we do see this. Take a look right here. We have a wave 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So we've completed the fifth wave. We're looking for pound US dollar to actually go ahead and drop back down to this level. Now, if US dollar is going to weaken, that would mean that we'll continue to see a pound US dollar rally. And so this is why it's a little bit differently set up right here, because normally when we take out the fifth wave, we look for price to go ahead and test the fourth wave, which is down here at about 126. Now, could this mean, and it's possible, could this mean that we're going to see a weaker pound? Even though dollar is going to weaken, pound may weaken a little bit more than the dollar, and that'll drive the dollar US dollar, the pound US dollar bearish towards that target we anticipated right about there at that 126 level. And so that is definitely a possibility that we could have one currency pair be weaker than the other, even though both are weak, but one being weaker than the other just to drive it to the technical levels. So we'll go ahead and take a look and see how that plays out. So pound US dollar, like I said, set up a little differently like we've seen on the US dollar CAD, because I'm expecting pound US dollar to actually fall back down to 126. But again, we'll have to review that and take a look and see how it's played over the course of the next couple of weeks. Actually, a couple of weeks at 2 months. Now, let's go take a look at US oil. Now, US oil, the reason why I look at dollar index and US oil is because both of them will be affecting most of the currency pairs across the board, because Canadians traded against quite a few crosses, as well as US dollars traded against a couple of crosses. And when we start seeing some influence in the dollar, we start seeing some influence in the JPY crosses, the Swiss crosses, as well as euro. So there's a lot of influence that takes place through the different crosses as we look at the oil and dollar index. Now, here's US oil, 4-hour time frame. What do we see? We do see that US oil has dropped back down, but we still got a target right down here, and that's around about 61.80. So 61.80, we're still expecting 61.80 to come into play. So this that we're seeing right now is just a correction move. It looks like a zigzag, taking out the previous high. So it's not going to be too long before we start seeing a sell-off on oil pricing. And if we see a sell-off on oil prices, we're looking for price to drop back down to around about 61. And if it drops back down to 61, then we may start seeing some rally. So if we do see price dropping down to 61, enjoy the cheaper prices at the pump, but it's not going to last for too long, because as soon as we take out $61 right here, 61.80, then we're expecting price to continue a new trend, a bigger trend going north, and we should see prices of oil start to escalate quite a bit. So we're going to keep an eye on that. But now, why don't we look at the US oil? Because when US oil starts dropping or rising, that does influence the price of the Canadian. And so if we start seeing a dip in US oil, if we're expecting a dip in US oil, then that means we'll see some weakness out of the Canadian dollar. Now, let's go back to the US dollar CAD pair. If we go back to US dollar CAD right here, what do we say in US dollar CAD? We say we're expecting a dollar to weaken. Now, if we're going to have a weak dollar, weak Canadian, all right, then it comes back down to the same thing we saw with the pound US dollar. Pound US dollar, same thing. We're anticipating pound US dollar to dip down to 126. The only way it can dip down to 126 is, of course, if pound really weakens. Because if dollar's weak and pound's weak, pound's got to be weaker in order for the pound US dollar cross to drop back down south, right? And the same thing applies here to the dollar, all right, dollar index. If we look at dollar index and we look at US oil, and we see that they're both anticipating some weakness, then this comes back down to, again, which one is going to be weaker, because that's going to drive it. Now, if I'm expecting from a technical perspective, if I'm expecting dollar to weaken on the chart, all right, if I'm expecting dollar to weaken against the Canadian, then that means that we're probably expecting a weaker dollar compared to a weaker Canadian. And that's how we're going to push back down, further down south. So, again, this is going to be a battle of control right here. We're going to have to see which one wins. I'm going to bank on the dollar winning and losing ground against the Canadian dollar, and dropping back down to this level right here at around about 120. Looks like 126 on the dollar on US dollar CAD as well. So both pound and dollar index, pound and that's pound against the dollar and US dollar against the Canadian, all chasing after that 126 level, which is strange. All right, so we'll see how that plays out. Now, let's go take a look at gold this week. How's gold sitting up this week? Well, gold is currently right now in a little bit of a range, but it has been trending though. We did see it come down here. We did talk about buying below this level right here. It never broke below that. Oh, hang on, it did. It broke below that level, and we said bullish as price trades below. Their price trade did trade below. And so as we see price trade below, we've been talking about buying on gold, and we said buy on dips as the market continues to move up. So here was a buy right here. Price rallied up. We dipped back down. Here was another buy opportunity. It comes back to retest those highs, and now it's time to rally again. So we're expecting gold to continue its rally and actually start chasing after its target up here at the top, which is at 1,940 dollars right here. So this is where we're expecting the price of gold to go to is about 1,940. So we're actually in an uptrend, a bullish uptrend on gold. Now, could we see some dips? Absolutely. And this doesn't mean because we've got an upward swing right here that price can continue to rally. All right. We could see price sitting in a little bit of range here where it goes in and creates what we call an irregular or even a running flat or a zigzag. So some sort of correction pattern, and then takes off and starts moving north. So we could be range bound on gold for a while before it actually goes in and breaks out. Now, gold performs very well before we head into sort of recession. So when we head into recession, gold performs well. When we're in recession, silver outperforms gold. So as we look at this right here, and we're looking at gold starting to move, we're moving. It tells us that with the high inflation that we have right now, obviously interest rates not rising, and if it does rise, does it help the economy? Because if we start seeing rising inflation and raising rates to control inflation, that's not going to be good for anyone when it comes to buying houses, cars, loans, all that good stuff. It's not going to be good for us. So we have to do something, though. We can't allow inflation to continue the way it is because that's just going to cripple this economy even more. So definitely need to control inflation, but the question is, how do we do that? How do we stimulate? How do we get the economy back where it needs to be and control inflation? All of that's going to take place. All that's going to, make a big, create a big influence in the way price moves. Currently, right now, the way gold's moving right now tells us that we're not heading in a good place with regards to the economy. So we're going to keep an eye on gold. We're expecting gold to continue to rally up. We're looking for a target to the upside. 1,920 is the upside target. We'll see how that plays out. Now I want to go ahead and take a step back and take a look at a currency pair that I'm focusing on, which is the Euro Swiss. Let's take a look at the Euro Swiss right here. Euro Swiss is definitely a pair that I'm expecting rally from. And if I go over here, this is the 4-hour time frame. Look at that big sell-off right here. We did go down to the 1.618. Now, every time we hit the 1.61 extension, we do expect some correction. Now, it doesn't always. And what concerns me right here is that the market's moving range-bound. All right. So if we look at this range-bound trading here, okay, it tells me that, hey, listen here, we may end up being in an internal fourth wave, which means that there's another dip before the rally takes place. I don't like that. I would like to start seeing some rally in the Euro Swiss, but it is what it is. We're at this point, we'll have to keep an eye on this. So I'm actually long Euro Swiss, expecting rally, but if it does dip back down, I'm going to have to be a little more patient on this before the market goes ahead and rallies north. So definitely looking for a breakout to the upside, and I'm going to keep a very close eye on this. We are trading at, you can call this a support level. We're now looking for price to go back up to resistance and hopefully even break through that and get to, I've got a target right here. And that there's those previous lows right here. So for at least the short term, let's get up to that price at around about 1.0508. So 1.0508 is the upside target once we break out of this short-term range right here. All right, good. Now, let's go jump into Bitcoin. take a look and see what's going on with Bitcoin this morning as we start to look for rallies, right? And so here's Bitcoin. Bitcoin's sitting at a very key level right here. And that level is that it did not take out this low. And remember, I don't know if you remember my previous conversation on Bitcoin, but we mentioned that if Bitcoin takes out the low right here, we could be heading a lot further down. In fact, we said we could go down to about 30,000 on Bitcoin. So it stayed above that 40,000 level, which is important. It's critical, really critical. And if we can stay above 40,000, we're then on our way up towards that 76,000 level, called 77,000 level right here. And so I know that there's been a lot of chatter about the 100K mark coming into play, and this is true. 100K would absolutely be a mark that the Bitcoin is going to chase after, but it's going to trade in waves. I believe we're going to see 77,000 come into play if we stay above 40,000. So if we stay above 40,000, 77,000 is going to be the next upside move. We're already starting to see some altcoin movement. We've seen Bitcoin starting to rally over the last 24 hours. So we could be at that turning point right now where we're going to start seeing some good movement out of the altcoins. So is it time to go ahead and start buying and getting into the market? Absolutely. What you should do is, traders, is make sure that you go ahead and subscribe to this channel if you have not already, because we're going to bring in some experts in to discuss altcoin movement. In fact, I've got Cameron that's going to be coming in. He's going to be handling the altcoin sessions, and he's going to be talking about altcoins that are going to move. And so we need to go ahead and pay attention to the altcoins that are really at cheap rates at the moment right now, and look to invest in those altcoins, because those are the bigger movers that we're going to get. Now, if you're going to ask me a question, I've had this question over the weekend as well. A lot of the students have asked me, Big Dog, is it time to go ahead and buy Bitcoin right now? My thing here about Bitcoin is that if Bitcoin goes to 100,000, that's 100% of a return that you're going to get. With Bitcoin trading at 50,000 or just above that now, 51, I believe. Yep, 51,600. If Bitcoin's trading at 51,600 and it goes up to 100,000, that's 100% of your return. That's 100% return and 100% increase in price. Now, you can find altcoins that can give you 3x, 4x, 5x, 10x, okay, and see the same sort of movement, all right, that we're going to see on Bitcoin. But the problem is, the issue is Bitcoin's not offering traders that are trying to get in at that price good rate of returns, all right? Is it a stable coin to get in? Absolutely. Do you want to build up your Bitcoin portfolio? Absolutely. But do you want to go ahead and increase your profit potential quicker? Yes, absolutely. How do we do that? We get into altcoins. We'll talk about that in the altcoin season shows, which are going to take place this week. So make sure you guys can subscribe to this channel, and we'll see you guys in that session as we go into the week. So traders, that is about all I have for you today. Hopefully that leaves you with something to go ahead and look at this week. Again, not a very active week of trading, but there is going to be some movement. I think we're going to see more crypto movement this week than we're going to see some currency movement, but it's going to be interesting. We'll see how that plays out, and then we'll go ahead and talk about that in our next show. So with that being said, traders, have a fantastic week ahead. And if I don't see you before New Year's, have a blessed New Year, and we'll see you back in 2022. This is FxBigDog signing off.